Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to be walking you through the process of creating this axle for the Autoblocks T9 vehicle. It looks daunting because of the number of the dimensions that are on it, but it's really not that bad, to be perfectly honest. We are going to draw a center line here to start off. You can see this long, short dashed line. Okay, that's our center line. And just like we use the Revolve feature for the rubber sleeve, we're only going to draw the top half of this profile, and then we should be able to revolve it to create the axle shape. Okay, so if we just take it easy and go a few steps at a time, it's a little bit long of a process because of the number of dimensions and constraints you have to add in. But again, it's really not that complicated, not as bad as it looks. Okay, so let's start off with this. You see how we have the 0.88 going all the way across. That's fully the left side to the right side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by drawing this center line that's 0.88 long, and I'm going to lock that thing in place. And that gives me just a nice, good anchor, clean anchor that I can lock to at any point in time for the rest of the shape. So I'm going to come over here, create a new sketch. I'm going to draw on this plane, L for line, and I'm going to place a horizontal line that's 0.88 long. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. And I have that created. And again, what that does is that gives me kind of a line to reference. Now, this is not actually part of my shape, so I'm going to click on it. I'm going to hit X. Okay, and now it's a construction line. I don't have to worry about that like being part of my profile later on. Okay, now let's move forward with this. The next thing that I would do, if it's me, is I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to draw a rough outline of the top. So I'm going to come down, over, down, okay, all the way around this profile just on the top. And I'm going to make sure that it lines up on the left side with the left end of that construction line. And it's going to line up on the right side with the right end of that construction line. So I'm going to pause the video for just a second, and then I'll unpause it whenever I kind of get the rough outline and shape, and I'll show you a few tips and tricks before we move forward any farther. All right, so here we go. You can tell I've got my shape here, and it's not even close. I exaggerated some of this stuff on purpose because I want to show you some of these, again, tips for making this a little bit easier on yourself. Okay, so first of all, mistakes that are commonly made, this line does not actually line up with this one. They are not collinear. Okay, a lot of students will draw it that way. Those are not the same thickness, the top and bottom portion of this. So be careful about that. And if you did go through and do that, if you move one and the other one moves with it, you need to go through and delete the little constraint symbol that shows up next to it that says collinear. It'll look like this. Okay. However, on the left side, we do want to make sure that this line and we need to undo that. Okay, let's try this again. Collinear constraint. This line and its counterpart above it. Those should be collinear. So you can see that little symbol appears now, and when one moves, the other moves. Okay, that's very important. Okay, I also need to make sure that I'm going to come over here and make sure I'm not clicked on a line first. I'm going to click horizontal vertical constraint, and I'm going to make sure that this line, this point, lines up with the left edge, and this lines up with the right edge of the construction line. So that way my actual profile is the correct width all the way across. Okay. Now, before I get rid of that horizontal vertical constraint, I do want to make sure that this little section here is actually horizontal. I'll notice a lot of times people will not actually draw it that way. You got to be careful. Same thing goes for this one. This should be a vertical line. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay. So we're getting pretty close. Now it's time to go through and add dimensions. By the way, along the bottom here, there is actually a line. In fact, let me redraw it just in case. There should be a line. Aha, you see how that just filled in? Okay, if that's not filled in, you won't be able to revolve it. So make sure you draw the line that goes all the way across from here to here. Okay, so apparently I'd missed that. And you'll notice that if this is filled in with the pink shape, you know, the profile is actually closed. Now, let's talk about the dimensions that we have for this, okay? Do not get overwhelmed by the number of dimensions we have here. Start off with just the widths, the 0.05, the 0.25, the 0.19, so on and so forth. You shouldn't have to add the 0.88 again. You shouldn't have to do any math. You should only add the dimensions that are here. So I'm going to do 0.05, 25, 19, 07, 33, 05. I'm going to pause the video, and when I get done with that, I will unpause it and we can move forward. You do the same. Okay, so we have all of these left to right dimensions, these widths dimensioned, you can see all the way across. So let's go to the next step, okay? Let's go through and actually use the heights, but we're going to use all these diameters. So because it's a circular opening in the middle, it's actually a hole, right? It's a circle. So notice that they've used diameter, 0.19, 25, 30, 40. Now, a lot of students I've noticed will go try to convert this into a radius, or they'll just type it in as such. You got to be careful here. We actually need to know, then notice the 0.19 goes from here, this height, all the way down to here, this height. Okay, so just like we did with the rubber sleeve, we're gonna dimension it as a diameter of 0.19. The way that we do that is to come over here, dimension. I'm going to click between here and the center line. But instead of coming over here and typing in 0.19, I'm going to right click and say that's going to be a diameter dimension instead. So now notice that, well, it puts it up here, but it's still going to be the same. It's going to be 0.19. And whenever I do that, okay, that's weird, but in fact, let's go backwards here. I'm going to undo that for just a second. If I come over here, click on the center line first, now it'll go. Okay, so the line that you click first is what you're going to revolve around. You need to click on the construction line first. So that's my bad. It's 0.19, and we're going to come over here. I'll just drag it out of the way because that's messy. Okay, and I have that one dimensioned. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pause the video, but I'm going to add in the 0.25, 30, 40. I'm also going to add in the 19, 25, and 29 on the right side. So get those in, and when you're ready, unpause the video. Okay, so I've added all of these diameters in, and really it looks good, except for I got this weird thing happening over here. And you'll notice that the lines are starting to fill in black, right? They're starting to turn black on us, which is good, because that means they're constrained. The one that's blue, of course, is the one that can still float around, which is this guy, okay? Don't get concerned about that. All we need to do is drag this back down into place, and we're getting pretty darn close to where we need to be, okay? So you'll notice I'm able to actually move that. I'm able to move this up. Okay, the question then, and the one that's always missed, is how do I get this thing into place? So what we have to do is we have to look really carefully at this. You see this 0.01? Let's zoom in on that for just a second. See what that's saying. Whoa, let's see if I can get this back. What that's saying is it's 0.01 inches between the top surface here, that's where that extension line is, and then this arrow, which is kind of hidden by the shape, goes to the bottom line. So that means if we were going to go from this point to this point, that's a drop of 0.01. So let's go add that in. Okay, dimension. I'm going to zoom in here. This drop is 0.01. Okay, so now I have the bottom placed correctly. The question now is, where's the top? Okay, what is this? And what it doesn't really say, and it's tough to see, is that if I was to zoom back out, okay, this point actually has an extension line that goes all the way to it. Okay, this is actually lined up horizontally with this line. Okay, so what I can do is I can come back over here. I can click on the horizontal vertical constraint, and I can say that this dot needs to line up with, zoom in a little bit so you can see it, this one right here. Okay, now it's black, close profile. Okay, the entire shape is black. This thing is fully constrained. I can stop the sketch. I can revolve. I can choose the center line as this axis, and I want to go all the way around 360 degrees. So that's a good starting point for the axle. Hopefully that makes sense. I will create a second video here in just a second on how to do that that rectangular cutout over here on the left-hand side. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.